Let me ask you a question. And don't answer too fast. How many moments have you lost because your mind wouldn't let you move? You knew the answer. You had the words. You wanted to speak, but instead of using your voice, you used your thoughts. Again, and again, and again, until the moment passed, and you were left with silence. They told you overthinking means you're smart. But what if I told you that's a lie? What if the habit that makes you feel safe is the same habit that's keeping you invisible? You see, overthinking doesn't protect your life. It delays it. It delays your English. It delays your confidence. It delays your future. And in this video, you're not just going to learn English, you're going to break the mental pattern that's been stealing your voice for years. Because I'm going to take you through a story that's not just powerful, it's personal. A journey that will help you understand your fear, speak your truth, and finally take your place in the world. No grammar lessons, no cliches, just truth, psychology, story, and the exact actions that will set your mind and your English free. Ready? Then take a deep breath and listen like your life depends on it. Because in some ways, it does. She always thought overthinking meant she was smart. I'm just being careful, she told herself. I'm preparing. But the truth was quieter and deeper. She was stuck in her head, stuck in silence. While others made mistakes and learned, she analyzed every possibility until the moment to act was already gone. She wasn't preparing, she was hiding, behind perfect plans, behind invisible fear. Every time she wanted to say something in English, her mind started spinning. What if I sound stupid? What if I use the wrong word? She never opened her mouth. She called it intelligence. But it was fear, dressed up as logic. And that fear kept her in the same place. She watched opportunities walk by while she rehearsed sentences that were never spoken. Overthinking was not protecting her. It was destroying her voice. At first, she didn't even notice the damage. It felt normal to wait, to edit every word in her mind. But slowly, she began to feel a different kind of pain. A tiredness that didn't go away with sleep. Mental fatigue, emotional exhaustion, like carrying the weight of thoughts that had no place to land. It wasn't the English she couldn't speak. It was the pressure of needing to sound perfect every time. Then one day, she tried something different. She told herself, just say one English sentence without editing it. That was it. One sentence. It didn't need to be perfect. It didn't even need to be impressive. She just said it. And when she did, something surprising happened. The world didn't end. No one laughed. The sky didn't fall. In fact, she felt lighter. Because for the first time, she chose action over perfection. She started noticing how overthinking was sneaky. It didn't say, don't speak. It said, wait a little longer. Just fix the sentence first. Just be sure. But there was no finish line. No moment of perfect confidence, just more delays. So she created a new habit. Before every decision, she took one deep breath, slowly. Inhale, exhale. That breath reminded her, you don't need certainty, you need courage. And over time, something strange began to happen. Her English didn't just improve, her identity shifted. She stopped defining herself by who she used to be. She didn't say, I'm bad at English anymore. She said, I'm someone who is growing. And that small change, that shift in language, gave her room to become someone new, someone who didn't wait for perfection, someone who moved, even when it felt scary. She took out her journal one night and wrote one sentence. Just one. I want to be someone who speaks freely and lives bravely. That one line became her mirror. Every time she felt fear rising, she remembered that version of herself, the one waiting on the other side of action, the person who already existed inside her, just waiting for permission to come alive. And then it happened. One normal day, without warning, someone asked her a question in English, and she answered. No pause, no overthinking. Just a real human moment. Her voice came out imperfect but clear. It wasn't magic, it was momentum. That 15 seconds of truth showed her something overthinking never could. Your life only changes when your mouth opens, not your mind. If you truly want to stay stuck forever, then please, wait for the perfect moment before speaking English. Make sure the sentence is flawless in your head. Double-check every word, triple-check the grammar, and by the time you're finally ready, the moment will be gone. This is how overthinkers guarantee failure. They treat action like a luxury, but fluency is not found in silence. It's found in now. Want to stay insecure for the rest of your life? Easy. Just imagine the worst-case scenario every time you try to speak. Picture yourself forgetting a word, sounding weird, making people uncomfortable. Then replay that imaginary failure until it feels real. That's how you turn a possibility into a prison. Want to break that pattern? Practice this instead. Close your eyes and imagine the best-case scenario, the version where you speak with calm clarity and someone smiles back. Here's a secret that nobody tells you. If you really want to live in fear, keep replaying your mistakes like a broken movie. Every wrong word, every awkward silence, every moment of shame. Watch it again and again until it shapes your identity. That's how you become your past. But there's another path, a quiet one. It says, try again, even if it's messy. That's the only way to write a new story. Want to make sure your dreams never become real? Here's how. Spend years analyzing the path, but never walk it. Research methods, compare teachers, download resources, watch videos, and never speak, never risk, never try. This is the ultimate trap, because planning feels like progress, but progress only happens when the mouth moves. Want to escape it? Speak one sentence of English in the next 5 minutes. Yes, even if it's wrong. Let's be clear. These patterns don't destroy your English. They destroy your confidence. Slowly, quietly, like erosion on a mountain. You wake up one day and think, maybe this just isn't for me. But it is. It always was. The only difference between those who succeed and those who suffer is movement. And movement can start with one word. If you're reading this and thinking, but I'm just being careful, pause. That's overthinking's favorite disguise. Caution. Safety. But real safety doesn't come from hiding. It comes from building strength through exposure, from saying, let me speak badly today so I can speak better tomorrow. So many learners waste years protecting an image of perfection that nobody expects from them. And they pay for it with lost time, lost jobs, lost confidence. The world doesn't need your perfect English. It needs your real voice, the one you keep holding back. Because that voice, even in broken sentences, can open doors. If you've followed these destructive patterns until now, it's not too late. But only if you interrupt them, only if you break the rhythm. One English action, right now, not later, can shatter the entire system. The moment you speak instead of waiting, everything shifts. And in the silence that follows, something new begins to grow. Every conversation was a battlefield she never entered. She stood at the edge of every sentence, preparing the perfect way to say it, and then never saying anything. People thought she was shy, quiet, but they didn't see the chaos in her mind. Every word she wanted to say, she rehearsed 10 times, and then erased. Not because she didn't know English, but because she didn't trust her own voice. At restaurants, she rehearsed how to ask for water. In class, she imagined answering questions, and then smiled silently when her turn came. Her mouth moved only in her head. What if I say it wrong? What if they laugh? Her fluency wasn't blocked by grammar, it was blocked by fear. The kind that whispers, it's safer to say nothing than to say something wrong. But life doesn't wait for perfect timing, and one day, it didn't. She was walking in the city when a stranger stopped her. "Excuse me, do you know how to get to the station?" He was in a rush. She had no time to think, no time to rehearse, no pause to panic. She just spoke. Yes, go straight and turn left at the lights. Her voice surprised her, not because it was perfect, but because it was honest, unprepared, alive. She stood there for a moment after he left, like someone who had just discovered a secret tunnel. For the first time, she realized something huge. I already have the English, I just don't let it out. That single moment broke a mental chain she had carried for years, because the fear didn't come from lack of words. It came from lack of trust in herself. That night she made a decision. She would train for real conversations, not perfect ones. She opened her phone, searched for short, everyday English phrases, and practiced answering fast. No script, no overthinking. Just one question, one natural reply. She said it out loud, then again and again, like reps at the gym, but for her voice. The next morning she tried something new. She recorded a 10-second message answering a question. What do you usually eat for breakfast? No fancy grammar, just her voice, naturally. It wasn't amazing, but it was hers. She pressed play, listened back, and for the first time she didn't cringe. She smiled, because something inside her had shifted from shame to progress. Now, every day, she practiced shadowing. 1 minute of natural English from a video or podcast. She'd listen once, then repeat it, fast. No time to translate, no time to doubt. Just sound, rhythm, emotion, and the more she did it, the more alive her voice became. Not perfect, but free, like water breaking through a dam. Her friends noticed. Your English sounds different now, not because she learned more, but because she finally let herself speak before her thoughts could stop her. Her fluency didn't come from more study, it came from less hesitation. And somewhere between fear and flow, she found something more powerful than grammar. Self-permission. Most people think overthinking means their brain is working hard, but from a psychological perspective, it's the opposite. Overthinking is not a sign of intelligence, it's a sign of fear, a fear so deep that your nervous system activates a survival response. Even when there's no real danger, you're not analyzing, you're protecting, and fluency cannot grow where fear is in control. Here's what actually happens inside your brain. When you're about to speak English, your body senses potential risk, embarrassment, rejection, mistakes. So it activates your amygdala, the fear center of your brain. Your heart beats faster, your breath shortens, your mind races, you freeze. That's not a you problem, that's a nervous system hijack. And if you don't calm it first, no sentence will come out. That's why we start with breath. Before speaking, take a slow inhale. Count to 3. Hold exhale. Again. This tiny ritual lowers cortisol, signals safety to your brain, and allows your prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, to return. When your breath is calm, your words return. Not perfect, not rehearsed, just possible. And that's the power of nervous system awareness. The second illusion, perfection equals safety. Your brain has learned that mistakes are danger. Maybe someone laughed at you once. Maybe a teacher corrected you harshly. Maybe you felt stupid during a conversation. That moment got stored as danger. So now, before you speak, your brain asks, is this safe? And unless everything is perfect, it freezes. To break this, practice making one intentional mistake today. Say something with a funny accent, mispronounce a word, then laugh. It rewires your brain to see that mistakes don't equal danger, they equal growth. Here's another reason overthinking blocks you. Your identity is outdated. In your mind, you still see yourself as a beginner, even if you've been studying for years. Your brain holds onto old labels. I'm not fluent. I'm bad at English. But identity is fluid, and it only updates through action. Start small. Say 3 English adjectives out loud that describe your future self. I am expressive. I am confident. I am growing. That's how new wiring begins. And let's talk about the silent killer, rumination. When you sit alone replaying every awkward English sentence, your brain gets stuck in a loop. That loop reinforces shame, and the only way to break it? Speak. Not perfectly, just speak. Say 1 English sentence every time your mind spirals. Replace mental noise with vocal action, because rumination is like a treadmill. Speaking is the way off. Here's a practical reminder. Fear doesn't mean stop. Fear means slow down and breathe. Most language learners are not blocked by lack of skill. They're blocked by nervous system patterns. Understand this, and everything changes. You're not weak. You're not broken. Your system is doing exactly what it was trained to do, protect you. Now you get to train it for something else, connection. And the most powerful shift of all, when you realize that fluency is not the absence of fear. It's the rebuilding of safety through action. That's when your voice becomes steady. Not because the fear is gone, but because your brain has learned a new truth. I can feel fear and still speak. That's not just fluency, that's freedom. Did you enjoy the content and it made a difference for you? Click on Super Thanks and support our work. Most people think overthinking comes from self-doubt, but in truth, it often comes from something more profound. Fear of becoming the version of yourself you secretly dream of. Because becoming that version means leaving behind everything familiar, your comfort zone, your excuses, your old identity. And deep down, that kind of transformation is terrifying. So instead of stepping forward, you stay in your head. The moment you start dreaming big, your mind panics. Not because you're not capable, but because you are. That's the real fear. The fear of your own potential, the fear of having no more excuses, of being seen, of being responsible for the life you say you want. So the brain protects itself the only way it knows how, with overthinking. It keeps you busy mentally, so you never have to act. But every time you overthink instead of act, something dies. A sentence that could have been spoken, a connection that could have been made, a moment of growth that never happened. That's the hidden pain of overthinking, the life that stays unlived, the voice that stays unheard, the identity that stays trapped. Finish this sentence right now. In English, I want to become. Don't overthink it. Just write it down. Say it out loud. Give your future self a voice. There's a strange courage in doing something badly, especially when your whole life has been built around doing things perfectly. But progress loves imperfection. Overthinking hates it. That's why action, even clumsy action, breaks the pattern. So try this. The next time your brain starts spiraling, say your next thought out loud. In English, not for grammar, for freedom. She used to think fluency meant speaking without mistakes. But now she knows. Fluency is speaking honestly, even when you're scared, even when your hands are shaking. Because fluency is not about how you sound. It's about whether or not your voice has the space to live outside your body. That space only opens when fear doesn't win. And maybe you've been carrying the belief that if you wait long enough, one day you'll wake up confident. But confidence doesn't come from waiting. It comes from movement. From saying, even if I'm not ready, I'll try anyway. Because nothing transforms you faster than action taken in the presence of fear. So what's one thing you can do today? Not forever, not for a month, just today. Choose one English goal. Maybe it's speaking for 30 seconds. Maybe it's sending a voice message. Maybe it's writing a journal entry about your dream. Just today, that's all. Because when your brain says, what if I fail? Your soul can answer, what if I begin? The life you want isn't waiting on a perfect version of you. It's waiting on a braver version. One who doesn't need certainty. One who doesn't wait for permission. One who understands this simple truth. Overthinking never protected me. It only postponed who I was meant to become. And once you feel that, the delay is over. Your brain is not made for lists. It's made for rhythm, for emotion, for narrative. That's why when you try to memorize vocabulary like a robot, you forget. But when you read a story that moves you, the words stick, not because you forced them, but because they became alive. The truth is simple, but rarely taught. The more emotionally engaged your brain is, the more it remembers, not just English, anything. Cognitive overload happens when your mind is asked to hold too much, too fast. It starts to drop information, not because it's lazy, but because it's overwhelmed. But when you listen to a simple, engaging story, everything changes. Your mind relaxes. The tension in your body softens. You're not trying to learn, and yet you are. Read one page of your graded reader with full presence. You'll feel it. The learning is quieter, but deeper. Stories flow. That flow is what breaks overthinking. When your brain follows a story, it has no time to loop in fear, no time to stop and edit. It just follows the current, like a river. That's why when you read and listen at the same time, something magical happens. Your ears and eyes create a rhythm. Your brain synchronizes, and for a moment, you forget you're even learning. You're just in it. There's also a secret most learners don't know. Your brain loves to predict, and stories are full of patterns. Once you begin to recognize them, characters' emotions, rising tension, resolution, your fluency grows naturally. Try this. After reading a story, summarize it out loud in your own words. Don't worry about mistakes. Worry about movement. That's where memory lives. If learning feels like pressure, your brain rejects it. But if it feels like joy, like play, like curiosity, it opens. That's why choosing stories you genuinely enjoy matters. Don't study what you think you should. Study what sparks you. A sad story, a romantic one, a mystery. It doesn't matter. If it stirs emotion, it builds memory. That's neuroscience. But also, that's humanity. Language is not just made of grammar rules. It's made of people, conflict, longing, transformation. And when you read a story that mirrors your inner world, your fear, your desire, your hope, the words become part of you. You don't forget them, because they don't live on a flashcard. They live in your chest. This is why even a child can remember a fairy tale word for word, but forget their math homework. Stories create emotional glue. They're not just entertainment, they're memory machines. And when you use them wisely, they can turn your English learning from a task into a transformation. So if you've been thinking too much, press pause on grammar. Pick up a story instead. Let it carry you. Let it surprise you. Let it remind your brain what language was meant to be. Not just information, but experience. Something shifts when a person stops overthinking. You can see it in the way they speak. Slower, more grounded, present. Their words stop trying to impress. They start trying to connect. And that's when people lean in, because presence is rare, especially in a world full of noise. And presence only appears when the mind stops racing. There's a reason people trust you more when your words come slowly. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Overthinking splits your energy. You're half in the conversation and half in your head. But when you speak slowly and intentionally, even in simple English, people feel it. They listen. They open. Try this today. Answer one question in English, but speak it like you're telling a secret. When fear leaves the room, fluency walks in. You've seen it before. Someone who doesn't know every word, but speaks with flow, with warmth, with rhythm. They're not translating, they're just being. And that kind of fluency doesn't come from more vocabulary. It comes from less fear. And less fear starts with practice. Respond to one question today without preparation. Just speak. Let it be messy. Let it be you. The change doesn't stop in language. It ripples into how you show up at work, in your relationships, in your decisions. When you stop doubting yourself constantly, your posture changes, your energy shifts. And strangely, people begin to see you differently. Not because you changed, but because your inner battle got quieter. Fluency becomes confidence, and confidence opens doors that fear kept locked. There's a girl who used to stay quiet in every meeting, not because she didn't have ideas, but because she was afraid of saying them imperfectly. Then one day, she spoke up. Her English wasn't perfect, but her voice was present, real. That one moment changed everything. The team started inviting her more. She didn't improve her English first. She improved her courage. Fluency followed. We often wait for fluency to give us confidence, but it works the other way around. Confidence gives us fluency. Because the brain learns better when it's relaxed. The tongue moves better when it's not being watched by fear. Start small. Greet one stranger this week in English. Say one true thing. Then walk away with your head a little higher. Use your voice in unexpected places, at the store, in a comment, on a call. Not to prove anything, just to stretch the edges of your comfort zone. Every time you do, your world gets wider. English stops being just a skill. It becomes a tool, a key, a doorway into more life, more connection, more possibility. And all of this, all of it, begins the moment you stop letting hesitation decide who you are. The moment you say, maybe I don't need to be perfect to participate. That's when the real you starts to speak, and the world listens. "Why do I overthink?" she whispered one night, staring at her own reflection. Not to be dramatic, not to be poetic, just tired. Tired of missing moments. Tired of conversations she never entered. Tired of living with a voice that always hesitated. And somewhere deep inside, an answer came. Because fear has been steering your decisions. Not logic, not wisdom, just fear, wearing a very smart mask. She didn't want to live that way anymore. So she stood up, looked in the mirror and said, not loudly but firmly, "Action leads me now." That was her new rule. No more waiting for the perfect sentence, no more silent rehearsals. If the moment came, she would speak. If the thought appeared, she would move, because clarity doesn't come before action, it comes through it. "What happens when I stop overthinking?" she asked again, and the answer felt almost too simple. Everything gets easier. Her English started to flow, not because she knew more, but because she held back less. Her mind felt cleaner, like someone had finally opened a window. Her sentences weren't flawless, but they were free, and that freedom felt like air after years underwater. She used to think fluency meant knowing all the right words, but now she knew. Fluency meant letting herself be heard. That's what overthinking steals most. Not your knowledge, not your grammar, but your ability to feel present. And that presence is the secret ingredient in every powerful voice. "Who am I becoming?" she asked, not out of panic this time, but out of possibility. And this time, she had an answer. "I am a speaker." That was her new identity. Not perfect, not native, but alive, present, real. She didn't need certificates to own it. She only needed to show up with her voice, even shaking, and let it speak anyway. She began to record 20-second reflections every night. Nothing fancy, just her thoughts. Her voice, her truth. "Today I spoke in English at the cafe. I made a mistake, but I didn't die." That kind of courage, repeated in small doses, created a transformation she didn't even realize was happening. Until one day someone said, "Your English sounds so natural now." And for the first time she believed it. The truth is, overthinking was never a guardian. It was a delay, a fog that pretended to be safety. And she was done with it, done shrinking, done waiting. Done rewriting the same sentence in her head, while life moved on without her. She chose movement, not mastery. She chose now, not later. And with that choice, her life and her English finally began. Let me leave you with one final truth. You were never too slow. You were never too late. You were just stuck in your own mind and replaying a story that never let you begin. But now, that story can change. Overthinking has delayed your English, but more than that, it's delayed your becoming. And the life you want. It doesn't need a perfect version of you, it needs a braver version. So ask yourself honestly, what has overthinking stolen from you? What have you not said? Who have you not become because you waited too long to feel ready? And what would happen if today you stopped waiting? What if English was no longer just a language, but a doorway to the version of yourself who acts, speaks, lives? The truth is, you don't need more information. You need more action. One breath, one sentence, one honest moment where you let your voice lead. Because fluency doesn't just change your words, it changes your identity. And if this story made you feel something, if it reminded you of your power, then don't walk away silently. Leave a comment. Tell me, what's the one thing you're going to do differently starting now? Let your voice be heard. That's where transformation begins. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, activate notifications. Because every week, we don't just help you learn English, we help you heal your story through it.